I want to talk about the drought, but I want to give a different perspective on all of this. We know that there are lots of towns that have great troubles with water. Well, today there was a big announcement from the Queensland Government that there is about to be a pipeline which is going to be sent from the Ivanhoe Dam out to Warwick. And this is going to mean, eventually, that water will start to flow a lot easier in that part of Australia. But it's a place that, as you know, like most of the map, is very dry, and the water restrictions, well, they are punishing. I had a chance to have a chat to the local mayor, Tracey Dobey, from the Southern Downs region a bit earlier today.
It's unprecedented, actually. No one here has seen it this dry before. Certainly since records have been kept, this is the lowest rainfall we've ever had. And the significant thing about this rainfall is that there just hasn't been any. We've had up to 72 days without rain in the Warwick district. And while we've never had that period without rain before, the other thing that's happening here is when it does rain, we only get a few mils. So our rural residents are really feeling this drought, and that now has rolled into our urban centres as well. So everyone in our region is affected by the drought.
When the Leslie Dam is pumping, it looks like an absolute torrent, but right now it looks like something where parents tell their kids there used to be water there.
Well, Leslie Dam is a very big dam. It's only ever been full 3 times in its life, and one of those was back in 2010-11 in the floods. But since then, there's been very little inflow to that dam. So it's down around 5% at the moment, and that will last us out until about August 2020.
So we learned today that the Queensland Government is going to try to hurry up with a pipeline, 87 kilometres long. It'll connect you up to the Ivanhoe Dam. But before we get there, what about town water? How close are you to needing to bus it in?
Well, we are talking about town water there with that pipeline. So right now we have a number of urban centres within our local government area. 7,500 kilometres is how big our local government area is. Stanthorpe has about 5,000 people live in town and rely on town water, and we'll be looking at trucking water to Stanthorpe from Warwick in the coming weeks. So we anticipate that Storm King Dam, the above-ground water storage there, will run dry in the coming weeks, and we already have that project up and ready, and that was funded by the Queensland Government. We're using water from Conley Dam to supply Stanthorpe. That's a small dam just outside of Warwick. Used to be the main water supply for Warwick until Leslie Dam was built. And both dams now, Leslie and Conley, are then due to run dry around August next year. So this pipeline is really important for us, because once our above-ground storages run dry, we'll be looking at using bore water to supply our residents. We need about 6.5 meg a day of water to supply our residents who live in towns, and of course our rural residents too, whose tanks are dry because we've just had no rain. And if we don't get any summer rain, then we'll be supplying them with drinking water as well.
People in some of the capital cities are bitching and moaning that their water restrictions mean that they have to wash their cars with buckets. Tell me what it's actually like in the real world and what people are going without in places like where you live.
Well, we're asking our residents to stick to 100 litres per person per day, and that's pretty tough going for most people. But it's amazing how our residents have adapted to that. And once we start trucking water to Stanthorpe, we're going to be asking our residents to reduce a little bit more, down to about 80 litres. So in effect, that's about 8 buckets of water a day. And that is a big ask. I don't want our region to have to go through this again, which is why we're putting in place as much as we can in regard to supplementary and long-term water infrastructure, as well as making sure that we have this emergency water infrastructure in place so that when we get our next worst drought, we are prepared for that as well.
So is it a race, 60-second showers in your house and everyone else around town?
Well, we call them military showers here, or naval showers. You know, you turn the shower on, you get wet, and then you scrub yourself down and you use that bit of water to wash yourself off. And of course, that goes into a bucket on the ground, and we're using that for all sorts of purposes. In fact, people are amazing in our region, how positively people are and how proactive they're being in trying to make our water storages last as long as they can. You know, when these dams were built, they were designed to provide 3 years of water without inflow. Well, we're there now. We've had that 3 years without inflow, and you know, we need to plan for the future. We'll have to prepare now for 5 years without inflow and make sure we have this emergency water, as the Queensland Government is doing for us with the pipeline from Toowoomba to here.
Well, all the best to you and the residents. Military showers, enjoy those for the next little while. Well, I'm glad this thing's going to be built well, sooner rather than later, but it's going to be a long, hot summer between now and when this thing actually gets done in the next little while. All the best to your Mayor and all the best to your residents.
Thank you very much and take care.
The Mayor is Tracey Dobey there, and how's that? 100 litres a day per person. It's about to go down to 80 litres a day. Scott Emerson is a former LNP minister in the Queensland government. He's a big part of what we do here at Sky News each and every night. You can read his stuff in the Australian newspaper. A man who's the CEO of Food Bank New South Wales, former New South Wales Labor leader, is John Robertson. Lads, let me explain, and I will go through in a little detail what I was showing before. This is what 100 litres a day means. A normal shower head that's not a special water efficient one, 2 minutes a day is your shower. 4 flushes a day of the toot, or 1, that's 12 litres. 30 litres is 1 machine load for your washing, that's it. Let alone cooking, which is 3 litres, house cleaning, which is 2 litres, dishwashing, which is 7 litres. So you can imagine 100 litres per day, about to become 80 litres per day. Cut back, cut back, cut back. Scott, how would you go on 80 litres a day?
I wouldn't survive, and people have to understand, and you've given very good example there, Paul, of how hard it's going to be for this community. Look, today's announcement is a good announcement. Unfortunately, it's 6 months late. The local MP there was warning in May about the fact that this is facing a crisis. Now, the money going into this pipe, look, Tracey was quite right. It's important to get this pipe in place, but it's going to take 1 to 2 years to build. And as you quite clearly said in your interview then, this town, this community is in crisis and things aren't going to get better. Now, we've got forecasts for have a wetter season over the next couple of months than normal, but who knows what's going to happen. I still remember the crisis Queensland faced about 10 years ago, where all the dams are running. We were on 140 litres or so, and we were issued with little timers to put into our showers to make sure we didn't spend too much water each time. But it wasn't as bad as this community is facing now.
Robbo, I mean, look, the truth is it's only going to get dry in the next little while before we get a cycle maybe of rain and all the rest of it here. It's good to see the Queensland government. Look, I'll bash up all day, every day, but at least they're doing something and doing something urgent. Of course, it should have been done a long time ago, but this is the basic stuff that we expect. But bloody hell, I mean, when we're getting down to that, and that's just one town, there are lots of places, Armidale in New South Wales, lots of other ones. You take your pick where this sort of stuff is all day, every day.
And look, the real problem here is that we've got a situation where no one's really been planning for these sorts of events. And what we're now seeing is communities being confronted with the fact they're running out of water, as you say. I think we've got to start to have this discussion much more seriously about what we do with recycled water. You go all over Europe and they use recycled water in their drinking water. The technology is there now. We have the capacity to do it. We live on the driest continent in the world. And I don't think too many Australians actually appreciate that this is a country that's drier than anywhere else in the world. And we, frankly, you know, when there's plenty of water, we seem to just toss, you know, put it everywhere and anywhere we like. In reality, we've got people running around saying our population needs to be at ridiculous figures. We've got, you know, 2,000 people a week, I think it is, arriving in this country. And no one's really doing anything about infrastructure when it comes to water. It's great to build a dam wall, but frankly, if there's no water behind it, it's a wall. It's not actually going to serve the purposes. Recycled water, we've got to just confront this and actually deal with it and go, this is something we have to do, we don't have a choice.
But there's a great mate of mine who is way smarter than I will ever dream of being, and he's working on technologies that are all about cutting back our usage. Now, our usage of, be it water, be it energy, be it all these other things. And I've got to say, bugger the issues about, you know, complexities of, you know, climate change and all. Just, we can all agree, though, that if you build a new house, if you renovate a house, you can retrofit things to your existing house. We should be doing everything we can to shrink our footprint, if nothing else, because, again, we don't have to get too complicated about it. You can just literally say, because your power bill is too high or there's not enough water in the dam. That's the stuff that needs to be worked on. Anyway, I'll try and